Welcome to the show. We're pleased to have with us tonight City Councilman, former Mayor, Bob Bruchey. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having me.
So, you know, if I look at Facebook, if I look at social media, there's a lot going on about the city of Hagerstown, either talking from people that, in my view, in some cases, maybe in many cases, don't know what they're talking about. But I also see a lot of posts from the city, and of course we've got a lot of things happening downtown. I know you and I have talked for years about going big or going home. Looks like the city is ready to go big.
We are. We've got some great irons in the fire, and you know, separate, of course, from the multi-use sports and event facility. We have, you know, the city of Hagerstown is finally, after 27 years of discussion, going to build a third parking deck.
Well, and you know, you just completed a number of things. I mean, we look at what Mr. Bowman has done with some of the buildings downtown. You've got the huge renovations to the Maryland Theater that opened up a while back.
Yeah.
That again,
and the Schmankelstube, and you know, I mean, there's been a lot of, you know, the Hatters Plaza, which is it connects basically the University Plaza to the Cultural Trail, which can feed to the stadium and to the park, and yeah, we've got a lot of things.
And not in the city center specifically, but the Washington County Museum of Fine Arts and the expansion that they're looking to do there.
That's going to be exciting for teaching our young people about art.
There are so many opportunities, and I think a lot of times we take them for granted only because they're only in our backyard. You know, these are things that if they weren't here, we would drive to see, I think, at least I would. But I take them for granted because they're in our backyard. The city park, the museum, the Maryland Theater, whatever the case may be. There's a number of them. Well, let's start out with the big dog. Which is what I'm still calling the new stadium. I know it's much more than a stadium, but you're going to, I'm sure, tell me about that. But let's start with the history of baseball in Hagerstown. Tell me about that.
Well, you know what, and I wasn't alive back then, though some folks might argue, but baseball actually began here in 1896. So we had the Cumberland Valley League, and then in the early 1900s we had the Blue Ridge League and the Middle Atlantic League. And then in the 40s and 50s, we had the Interstate League, which was a Piedmont league. Then we had the Carolina League in the 80s. And then, of course, you know, moved on to the South Atlantic League, where the Hagerstown Suns ended up. So
interesting.
Yeah, it's been we have a long history of baseball. And we went through a spell of about 26 years where we didn't have baseball. So it's a shame that the Hagerstown Suns had lost the affiliation with the Washington Nationals, and then, you know, they did away with that A team, and then, you know, but we're going to have baseball again.
We are, and we're going to have it in a brand new stadium.
Brand new stadium.
There was a lot of discussion. There was a lot of negative feedback about tearing down the old municipal stadium.
Sure.
What other choice did we have?
You know, we didn't have a choice. Rehab of a facility of that age, and everybody, you know, always called it historic. And don't get me wrong, it was one of the oldest active stadiums when the Suns were playing there. But you know, really the only thing left from the original stadium when it was built in '31 was the outfield wall. I mean, concrete wall. That was it, because the fire destroyed the bleachers and, you know, a number of other things. So, you know, everything else was more up to date. You know, the locker rooms and the offices and stuff. So it really wasn't historic. You know.
And there was flooding issues in that area.
Constantly. Yeah. Well,
which impedes baseball, because that would generally happen in the summer, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
In the early spring.
And I tell you, getting a phone call 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, saying that you know, everything's underwater at the stadium, that's pretty bad.
So the decision was made, and I know over the years, and you and I were kidding before we started the show, literally, I think it was 1987 or 88 that I first heard about baseball in Hagerstown, and Dick Phoebus, former president of Home Federal Savings and Loan, came into Kiwanis Club, where I was a member at the time, and said, by golly, we're going to build a stadium. And since then, I know it's gone through numerous iterations and numerous studies. And I know that we've talked about location. Should it be along the interstate? Should it be here? Should it be there? Why downtown?
Well, people, always question me too. You should, it's stupid to put it downtown. You ought to put it out on the interstate, more people. Yeah, we tried that. We tried that in 1998. And we couldn't get the people to buy in 1998 along the interstate at Salem and 81. So, downtown, if you look at really energized small towns that have baseball, their stadiums are downtown. And they're downtown for a reason, because it draws people in. Puts feet on the street. It allows new business to pop open. New residential. I heard that a friend of mine, who more of an acquaintance, told me that he purchased a building on Summit Avenue and is going to make a Airbnb, just because this facility is going to be there. So, so those kind of things are going to happen. You're going to see more nightlife. You're going to see, more security, because more people mean more security, all by themselves, without police or anything. Just more people bring more security, and you're going to see that, and it's going to be great for our downtown. It's going to be great for all of Hagerstown and Washington County.
Well, I don't think we're the first city to come to the conclusion that the best way to get out some of the bad element that we're looking to displace is to bring the good element in, because the bad element doesn't like to live usually with a whole bunch of people around them.
No, they don't like good eyeballs.
No, they don't, because that's a problem for them.
Yes.
So were there any other seriously considered locations downtown as you went through this most recent round of studies? Was there anything else that was looked at seriously?
The MSA in this last round, and we can go back the round before this one even. We looked at 9 locations. In this last round, I believe the MSA actually took a hard look at 6 of those 9. And downtown did the numerous things that they wanted to see accomplished.
When we talked about this in prior shows, and this has been years back, but each one of the studies, and I know there were multiple studies, showed that it was economically feasible, profitable even, to put this type of facility downtown.
Sure.
Obviously, the changes in minor league baseball have impacted the Suns. Are we still confident that this is an economically beneficial process?
I'm 100% confident, because we're not just talking baseball. Baseball is going to be, 70, 80 nights a year, nights and days a year. The other, let's just say, 7 months are going to be concerts and, outdoor shows and antique markets, and, all kinds of different things to pull people in. Which is why the parking deck is so needed at this point in time.
Okay. One of the biggest things that we see is a consistent theme on social media is this is a waste of city taxpayers' money. Now, my understanding is that city taxpayers are not on the hook for this. Can you talk about the funding?
I can, yeah, to the best of my ability, I will. I do know that the Maryland Stadium Authority is probably looking at around $58 million that they'll put into this project. I know that Governor Hogan and his, you know.
Now, is that inclusive of the parking deck or exclusive?
No, that's separate.
Because originally it was like 65 million all in with the parking deck, right?
And it's going to be about 70 million all in,
Okay.
except without the parking deck.
Okay.
Okay, parking deck's going to be 10 million. That is a city project. That is our contribution to this whole plan.
But again, that parking deck has utility far beyond Hagerstown baseball.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, you're talking Maryland Theater, you're talking restaurants, you're talking library, you know.
No more will people be able to say there's no parking in downtown, right?
Well, they really shouldn't say that now, but they do. So it doesn't. I don't think that's ever going to change.
Okay.
But you know, I remember doing a show here years ago where I said that, you know, the national average for a person, how far they will walk from where they park to where they want to get to, is 1,500 feet, and that's if they can see it. Okay. I think you cut that in half. I think 750. So, you know, this third parking deck, again, you know, it's been something that's been talked about since I was first elected in 1997. You know, finally going to happen. And we need it. We need it if we're going to redevelop the first block of Summit, the first block of West Antietam, the first block of Jonathan, the second block of East Washington. If we're going to redevelop those into, you know, a really added benefit to Hagerstown, to downtown, we need this.
Okay. You talked about the fact that it's not just a baseball stadium. Obviously, there are a couple months during the year when outdoor events probably wouldn't be very comfortable. Is there indoor space at all?
There will be indoor space, yeah.
And what will that look like? What will be the size of that?
There's going to be some decent sized rooms that are available for events. And again, you know, I unfortunately I haven't been able to attend, but I have seen footage of, you know, people attending events at a stadium, like in Philadelphia in the wintertime, where they have a big tent up and they have heaters and they do a first night, you know, December 31st.
Okay.
You know, and they have fireworks and they do all those kind of things. All that's, you know, going to be, you know, we're going to have the ability to do all those kind of things. Why wouldn't we? I think we're only limited by the imagination that we have. I truly do.
What roadblocks do you see at this point? Are there additional roadblocks between now and opening day?
Yeah, you know, the biggest thing is going to be some traffic congestion because, you know, with the construction, some streets are going to get blocked off every once in a while for material unloading and things like that. So that's going to be a problem for people. I understand that. But the great thing about the city of Hagerstown, you can get around Hagerstown without going down certain streets.
You can. You absolutely can, including alleyways.
Yes.
I mean, there's an alleyway right there that I have when Baltimore Street was closed for some reason, and I remember hitting the alley and off we go.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the first time we ever closed the first block of South Potomac Street, people flipped out. You only did it for a night, but they just totally flipped out. And some of the people who even knew that it really wasn't going to be a problem didn't like it. They thought that, you know, CRS couldn't get through, fire couldn't get through, police department couldn't get through.
They can.
They can, yeah.
One of the things that I always enjoyed, and I will be very truthful and transparent, I didn't attend a lot of games for the Hagerstown Suns, but I enjoyed the fireworks.
Oh, yeah.
Will there still be that opportunity?
Yes, there will still be fireworks.
Okay.
I mean, we do fireworks downtown right now at the Donut Drop, and we do them off the top of the clock building.
Okay.
So, you know, there's, you know, the great thing, I don't know, I mean, and maybe I'm just, you know, overzealous about it because I truly believe it's a project of a generation for us. But there are so many things that can happen there. And you can do RV shows. I mean, there's just so many things. It's going to be artificial turf. So you're not going to be limited to just baseball when it comes to sports, because you're not tearing it up because it's artificial turf. You can play football, you can play soccer, you can play, what's that game with the stick in the ball?
I don't know. Oh, that game, baseball.
No, not baseball, no. But anyway.
Oh, yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Lacrosse.
Lacrosse, yeah. I was going to say highlight, but the point is, with artificial turf, you can do so much more. On a grass field, you're really limited because you tear it up so easily.
So what I heard you say, though, while the parking deck is a city-funded project,
yes,
the baseball stadium is largely, if not completely, funded by others.
The baseball stadium is 90% funded by the Maryland Stadium Authority, which is through the lottery. Okay.
So if you play the lottery, yes, you're funding.
Yeah, you're financing it.
Okay.
But you also
But
have
that's
the
a choice.
opportunity to win money. Right. And it was created for that use, to build stadiums.
And arguably, the money's there. If we didn't get it,
We've
somebody else
seen
would.
it. We've seen it in Potomac and other places where that money is gone. And again, Governor Hogan had put $10 million in the budget, on the capital budget for this project. So yes, that's Maryland taxpayer dollars, but that's all of Maryland paying for this project, not just us.
Kind of like we paid for stadiums
in
in the city.
100%.
Several of them.
100%, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Talk about construction and talk about opening day. First of all, construction, where are we?
Well, I know they're putting footers down.
Okay.
And the game plan is still April of 24 to be playing.
That's close.
That is. Yep.
All right. So one of the things that we touched on briefly is the parking deck. That's another major project downtown. It is a city-funded project. Talk about how that parking deck will benefit more than just the multi-use, what's your term
Sports
for it?
and event facility. Yeah.
Museum.
MUSIF.
MUSIF, okay.
Yeah, we used to call it a MUSIC.
Okay. Tell me how that parking deck will benefit other businesses downtown.
Well, again, and I know that we covered about some of the great things that have happened with the expansion of Maryland Theater and all those kind of things that have happened to downtown. You're going to have the ability to be able to make it more convenient for people to park closer to where they want to be. A lot of people go to the Maryland Theater, use the Potomac Street deck.
Yes, they do.
Because it's close. It's right across the street. Well, this will be right behind it, as opposed to...
Oh, you're saying the arts and entertainment deck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the A&E deck. Yeah.
But I've used the Potomac Street, North Potomac deck too,
Yeah.
which
Well,
is
we
not
would
horrible.
No, it's not. No, it's just a little bit farther of a walk.
Right.
1,500 feet.
1,500 feet.
Yeah. So it'll benefit those entities that are already there. Okay. But it's the future growth that we got to think about too. It's I know that at the Shockey Piano Building there in the first block of Summit Avenue.
Oh yeah.
That's going to get rehabbed now because we have a parking deck going in, and it gives some of these people who own these properties the incentive now to move forward with their projects to help make downtown overall better.
Excellent. And the funding for that is entirely out of the city budget?
That's on us. It's actually it's an enterprise fund, so the parking fund pays for it.
Okay.
It's not city tax dollars that pay for it.
I should go back, if we can go back to the stadium and specifically baseball for a minute. Talk about the ownership of the team.
Well, the ownership of the team are Blackie Bowen in that group. They will own the team. They will lease the facility from the MSA. And that's about the extent of my knowledge on the the ownership.
And the team, do we know the affiliation at this point?
It's an Atlantic League team. There's no affiliate. There's no like Washington Nationals or the New York Mets or any of that.
Okay.
It's not an affiliated team. But the great news is that the Atlantic League teams are now the farm teams that
Feed the
affiliates come to watch to feed into their AA and AAA teams.
Interesting.
It'll be basically the same thing, except just not an affiliate.
And we're working on a name. There's a contest, right?
Yeah. I saw the five finalists today.
Excellent.
Not a fan.
Not a fan?
Of any of them, no.
Well, you're a Hagerstown Suns guy from the...
Well, you know what? My suggestion was the Railroaders, but that got shot down. So,
okay.
Yeah, it didn't make the cut.
All right. All right. Well, let's talk about a third big project, the Hagerstown Fieldhouse.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you know about that?
Well, I know that has been a concept for probably 6 years that I'm aware of. And about the same time that we started looking at that is when we started looking again at a facility in downtown for baseball. So, those projects have been running along the same parallel, except that is a city project. Now, we are getting some help from our state reps. Senator Quarterman has been a big help getting us some funds, and hopefully more will come to help with that. But again, that is, it's a city project that benefits all of Washington County. So, we aren't getting, we haven't asked for help. We aren't getting any help yet. We're hopeful that, as this thing moves forward, we're gonna see some help from our counterparts at the county who understand what this can do for tourism. You talk to Dan Spedden, I can tell you right now, he'll tell you that this will definitely boost tourism in Washington County another 15–20%.
Wow.
Just because of all the events and the tournaments and things like that that can happen because it's inside.
Well, and I was going to say, look at the ice rink. I know at one point it was extraordinarily popular. We used to volunteer through one of the organizations I was affiliated with to run concessions or something in there for tournaments, and they had, people from Virginia, New York, all over the place.
I was just through the Fairgrounds Park over the weekend checking on things, and there was a girls' softball tournament going on. New York tags, PA tags, yeah. So, the more of those kind of events you can have, the more people, more heads you put in beds, as Dan would say, which increases your hotel motel tax. That helps fund things for Washington County.
Take us through the construction, or take us through the remainder of that project. Where are we today? What does the construction phase look like? What is the potential opening? And what types of tournaments or whatever do you expect to see there?
We have a lease agreement with the entity that will actually run that facility. We're not going to run it. It's going to be run by a group that knows how to do that. So we have a lease agreement with them. And I know that we're in the final drawings of it. So hopefully it won't be too long. We're gonna
So we haven't turned any. You haven't turned any dirt.
I have not turned any dirt yet.
Okay. And again, from a type of event that we might expect to see there.
Again, another one of those. The imagination is unlimited on what you could do there, because you're going to have two fields. You're going to have hard courts for volleyball, basketball, those kind of things. You could have all kinds of other events in there when it isn't being used for, for soccer or lacrosse or whatever.
Wow.
People travel.
Oh, I know they do.
A long way to go to facilities like this.
Well, and a parallel at some level, maybe not at the same level, but the Athletic Recreation and Community Center out at HCC, virtually every indoor track meet for people across the state is held there. We have people coming in from Garrett County, Allegheny County, Carroll County,
And we could
Frederick
have had
County.
more had we added the 2 more lanes at the Arc. And you can ask your buddy Ron Bowers about that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not a city resident, but the city
I don't
residents,
hold that against you, Jim.
the city residents that are going to look at these projects, their question is going to be, what's in it for me? What's in it for them?
Well, we could do nothing, okay, and there'd be absolutely nothing in it for them. Or we can create these projects that will transform especially our downtown, into something that everybody wants to see, which is a safe environment that's full of life, that has people with expendable income who want to live downtown now, who want to be close to where the action is, and it changes the face of Hagerstown for 50 years.
What about from a financial perspective? We've got a very costly parking deck. We've got this Hagerstown Fieldhouse project, going to spend a lot of money there. How do they recoup? What is the return on investment from a taxpayer's perspective? How does that help them there?
Well, you do know that I'm conservative, correct?
I do.
Okay. And you also know that if there's not a return on an investment, I'm not in, no matter what. All right? Again, the parking deck is an enterprise fund. It's not taxpayer funded. Mm-hmm. It's user funded, just like the water fund and the sewer fund. Okay? The indoor sports complex will be, through our lease, we have guarantees that protect us. And unless something like another COVID epidemic hits, we should be more than fine with a good return on our investment there. What that means for the average Joe like me, okay, I'm just an average Joe who works for a living and owns a house, has to pay taxes, all those kind of things. It's going to help because we're going to see more revenue coming in to our city coffers, which means that I can sit back and relax that my taxes are not going to go up to pay for police and fire and those kind of things that we need every single day.
Because you've increased the tax base.
Right.
Gotcha. Bob, we're going to take a break there.
Sounds
Stay with us when we come back with Bob Bruchey, City Councilman for Hagerstown, Maryland. Welcome back. We're here once again with City Councilman Bob Bruchey, also former mayor. I need to put that in there as well, Bob. My apologies.
No, it's quite all right.
We talked about some big projects that are going on in the city in the last segment. None of this happens in a vacuum.
No.
You need, whether it's input and help from the residents, from the citizens, from private industry, or from other governmental agencies. Can you talk to us about the support you are getting for these major initiatives from others, and where you would like to see, what else you would like to see in terms of cooperation?
Well, I got to tell you, I can't sing the praises of Senator Quarterman enough. I mean, he has been a huge advocate for us, not only on the MUSIF, but also on the indoor sports complex. So, yeah, you know, his ability to be in Annapolis to, you know, push forward the grants that we're seeking and those kind of things is a huge help to us. Without it, a lot of things wouldn't happen. So, you know, hats off to him. Again, can't give him enough accolades.
Well, and he's also helping with some other that are not City of Hagerstown related, but the Boys and Girls Club, the
Sure.
community center.
Well,
I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and the things that he's bringing back for our community.
Yeah.
And I say this several times on the show, but I don't think we can say it enough, because we can't forget Washington County as a whole is a net taker of revenue from the state of Maryland. We don't pay in more than we get back.
Yeah.
We get back more than we pay in.
Yeah. But it wasn't always that way, but it has been probably in the last 10, 15 years. But yeah, I mean, it's, you've got the state, you've got some help there through, private investment. That helps. I know we have some private investment probably coming on the indoor sports complex also. So if you can make it a community facility that's going to benefit the community, then the community buys in. You can't benefit just one entity. It just doesn't work that way. No one wants to do that. I don't want to fund those kind of things. Again, if there's not a return on investment for my citizens as a whole, be it a better, healthier community with more activity, or a real return on investment to our funds that we have to put in, I don't want to do it. I want to make sure that I'm looking out for the people that I'm looking out for, we get. I would like to see us be closer to our county counterparts. In the last administration before this one, I think we only met like 3 times over a 4-year period. That's not healthy.
Do you see that changing?
I want to say yes. I haven't seen it yet, but I feel it will. We met back in April down at the watershed at our city water plant in Williamsport, and had a very nice meeting, talk about how water works and what we need to do for future growth in Hagerstown and Washington County. It was a good meeting. I think everybody, especially our county counterparts, understand a lot more now than they did before they went to that meeting with us. So I believe that we're going to get those more frequent meetings. When Ron Bowers was there, and then John Barr when he was president before, we tried to meet every 90 days. If nothing else, just to talk about where we were and where we wanted to get to, and who could help who. So I'm hoping we get back to that. I truly do.
Yeah, there seems to be a number of things on which you would need to collaborate.
Yeah, there are.
We're going to talk about water and sewer here after a bit, but that being, at least for me, at the top of the list.
Yeah.
And obviously, the county has played some role in this MUSIF project. See what I did right there? I called it by your acronym.
You did.
The stadium, and other things, I'm sure. So yeah, that's odd to me that you only met 3 times in 4 years.
Yeah.
Interesting. In terms of the county specifically, what are I know there's agreements with water and sewer. What other types of things do you routinely discuss? Maybe not with the elected officials, but what are the interactions? What are the touch points with the county?
Well, everybody's concerned about public safety. So I do know that my chief and the new sheriff, and of course Sheriff Mullendor before that, worked very well hand in hand, doing some joint operations and things like that benefited both of us very much. Just recently we had a big warrant served, and got a very bad guy off the street. So it's important that we have our agencies working together, and again, this group of county commissioners, Derek Harvey's new to that seat. The others aren't, but there's a little bit of a learning curve as always, and hopefully things pick up and we can meet more frequently and have good conversations and get things accomplished for our citizens.
Let's transition for a minute. You mentioned the learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Let's transition for a minute to the makeup of the city council. And I know that we've got Takesha Martinez was a first-term council person when she was appointed as mayor. Mm-hmm. We now have our new city council person who has replaced Takesha. I know that Shelley McIntyre was appointed in 2017 and was reelected in 2020. Talk about the learning curve for new members to the city council.
Well, fortunately, Matt Schindler, our newest council member, ran for the city council back in 2020.
And he was also very involved in committees.
Yeah, and he understands. He really wanted to be on the planning commission, so that's where we put him at. But anyway, so he's catching up really fast to things that are going on, and he doesn't just make a decision right away, which I like, because he takes time to think about things and then puts his 2 cents in, and then sometimes open the eyes of other people. That's always good.
Yeah.
So, and Tiara was new in 2020. She comes along, she fits in fine, she understands, she comes prepared to the meetings.
She is very articulate.
She's very smart. She's a lot smarter than me.
I like hearing her talk. She is very thoughtful, in my opinion, and makes her point very well.
She's a lot smarter than me, and luckily we have Kristen, who is our water and sewer guru. I mean, he knows more than anybody I've ever talked to in my life about water and sewer, so I think we have a good cohesive working council. A perfect example, last night we passed the transient housing ordinance for people in controlling some of the hotels, and making sure they're safe for people and doing all those things. It was brought up the first time probably a year ago. It didn't get to a vote. A lot of things in there that some of us weren't comfortable with. Came back with a new rendition. I was the only one who voted against it last night. Of course, they knew that going in, only because there's the state of Maryland has certain regulations you have to adhere to be licensed in the state of Maryland as a hotel. We were going above and beyond what the state of Maryland requires, and one of those was that the hotels would have to have their employees Narcan trained for opioid overdose. If that's the case for hotels, then that should be the case for every business. I mean, if you're going to, tell the hotels that they have to do it, then you should tell every business, because there's always the propensity of somebody overdosing in your business anywhere.
Restaurant,
right.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
And in fact, and not having to do with narcotics, but the state of Maryland just passed a law where restaurants are going to have to maintain IEDs.
Yeah. So it's
AEDs. I'm sorry, not AEDs.
AEDs. Yeah.
AEDs.
So it's I mean, don't get me wrong. Listen. I was the only one, and if that language had not been in there, I would have voted for it. There was language in there that I supported when it comes to human trafficking classes and being trained in that and what to look for, and I was in support of that.
Excellent.
But so there's so we've got a good group, and I think we'll get a lot accomplished.
You've also got younger members of city council. I don't want to say it was the old guys club, but it was kind of the old guys club at some point in recent years. You've got younger members. Are they bringing a fresh set of ideas and perspectives to the table, do you find?
Well, one thing that I like about them is that they listen, which is important.
So they don't come in with their mind made up?
No, and they shouldn't. you know, and I can tell you that when there's an issue that I feel passionate about, you know, I'll research that to death and I'll come in with my opinion. And every once in a while, my opinion gets changed. I mean, not often, don't get me wrong, I'm hard-headed and I'm old, but, you know, every once in a while. And sometimes it comes from one of the younger people who give me a different perspective.
Excellent. Next up, we need to talk about crime and addiction.
Oh, Lord.
Let's take a break now, and when we come back, that's what we'll talk about. Stay with us for another segment with Councilman, former Mayor Bob Bruchey. Welcome back. Bob, it's time to, first of all, thank you for staying on for another segment. We need to talk about addiction. Hagerstown is certainly not the only community in the United States that's suffering with addiction.
No, we're not.
In fact, I would, from what I read, the majority of communities at...
From all sizes.
Right,
yeah.
From all sizes are suffering. First of all, what specific drugs or substances are causing the highest rate of addiction in Hagerstown?
Well, drug of choice currently still seems to be marijuana. So it's not really an addictive drug, what they tell me anyway. But you know, when you talk about heroin and you talk about different types of pills that could lead to an overdose if they're laced with fentanyl, and I mean the problem is that in today's society you don't know what you're getting. And that's the scary part for these people who are, you know, addicted to these illegal drugs. So they just don't know what they're getting. Some have been addicts for years and years and years and have never had an incident, but then they get something and it's a bad dose of something.
I was going to say it only takes one bad batch of whatever it is to
that's all it takes.
To kill you.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I can tell you the stats over the last, you know, 6 years are not going down. We're averaging about 280 in overdoses a year.
280?
280 with probably 42 to 43 fatalities from that.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it's, you know, it's, there's got to be an answer, and it can't just be about, you know,
and do we find
holding their hands.
Do we find that it's impacting any age group specifically higher than the others? Is it young people? Is it older people?
I got to tell you, traveling around the city, seeing what I see, it's all ages.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's I mean, and it's, you know, it's tough because the resources that are available aren't significant enough to handle what everybody's going through, and again, not just here, you know, all over the country for sure. But you know, we have the ability to make changes that brings positive results, but we aren't doing them. And we aren't doing them because of things such as catchphrases like harm reduction. You know, harm reduction is that you know, you want to try to talk to these individuals into getting treatment, and you want to be able to show them a better path. Okay, which I wholeheartedly agree. They have to find a better path. But it can't just be about coddling them and holding their hands. I mean, it can't be. All we're doing is enabling them to continue to do what they're doing because there's no consequence.
You know, it's funny you say that because Senator Quarterman, who was here a week or so ago, one of the points that he made was that, yes, he believed that it was a medical problem, but at some point you had to be accountable.
You do. You do. You know, you can't, And I, I tell people, and whether they want to believe me or not, it's up to them, of course. But when 911 receives a call about an overdose, we send usually somebody from our fire department, and usually Engine 2 because they have paramedics on Engine 2, which is out in the North End. 2 police cars show up, an ambulance, CRS or whoever's available or closest, and then a chase car. So you got 5 pieces of apparatus, probably got 11, 12 people total, and they're there for at least an hour. Okay, they're tied up for an hour. Now, if you calculate that into tax dollars, that's probably like $3,500 per call. Now, 18 we had 220, 19 224, 20 355, 278 and 21, 284 and 22. That's just a lot of tax dollars.
That's a lot of tax dollars.
And if the individual doesn't want to be transported to Meredith, and they can just walk away from the incident with no consequence. Something's got to change. There's got to be a different path, because this one's not working. I mean, we're seeing the numbers. It's not working.
If Bob Bruchey had his way, what would that different path be? Have you thought about that?
Oh my God, yeah, over and over.
Tell us.
I'm not heartless. I want to save everybody too. I truly do. I don't think you can, but I want to. All right, and I believe that starts with, okay, we have to have some buy-in. I'm going to put this out there. We have to have buy-in. We have to have buy-in. Let's just say that you Jim Miller, called in and you've somehow got mixed up in this and you overdose. All right, you have a great job. You have a family. Okay, I don't want to take those things from you. I want you to continue to have a great job and have a family. But I also want to make sure that you get help. And if that means having your employer say, yes, we have an EAP program. We want to help him too. So we're going to hold his position for 30 days without any ramifications and let him go to this treatment at the Washington County Sheriff's Department and, keep his family intact and his employment intact. And then, you can get clean in 30 days. And you can be on a program in 30 days. Now, what happens after that 30 days? Guess who that's up to?
Me.
Jim Miller.
Right.
Right. We're not going to save everybody.
But if I can just walk away, if I call and say, gee, I've overdosed, and you come and you fix it, and I can just walk away, what's my incentive to...
There is absolutely none. There is none. You don't have any. Martinsburg has, okay, we have the Good Samaritan law in the state of Maryland, okay? And that means that if I call for you, let me back up. I think what it was supposed to mean when they crafted this language was that if we're partying someplace and you overdose, and even though I'm using and holding, okay, I can make a phone call to save your life, and when someone shows up, be it HPD or whatever, I don't get charged even though I'm holding and using because I called to save your life. All right? I believe that's how the law was intended. It's not how it's worked out. I don't believe that you get away, be able to do this scot-free. I think there needs to be a consequence. And I believe the thought process at the beginning was that there would be a consequence of some kind. But we don't do that. There's no consequence.
So the treatment and the notion of keeping your family, keeping your job, that's the carrot. What's
right.
The stick?
The stick is that happens one time.
So you're saying that well, okay, that happens one time. So the second time, do I get that treatment option again if I just walked away the first time?
No, you ought to get, no, no.
So the first time, how do you incent me to get into, because the carrot is,
Well, and I was trying to get there. In Martinsburg, they have a similar Good Samaritan law, okay? But over there, if they respond to you, who is overdosed, you get a citation, and that citation can take you one of two ways. One, to a court approved treatment facility or treatment program, or two, to jail.
so that's the stick.
Right.
The carrot is the treatment, the stick is jail.
We have no stick.
But the point is, the choice is with the drug user.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, there's Kevin Simmers at Brooks House has, without a doubt, the #1 treatment facility probably in existence in America. I mean, his success rate is like 95%. You can't, I mean, you can't barely get better than that, you know? And his girls end up, you know, being hired by local companies to work for them. You know, so he's doing it right, but he has carrots and sticks too in his treatment program, and that's why it works. If all you do is condone what someone is doing, they're never going to change. There's no reason to. And that's, for me, is the scary part, because I don't think we'll ever see these numbers go down if we don't change what we're doing.
So this is like the proverbial parent, and I'm going to count to 3.
Yeah.
And they never get to 3.
Right. Right.
We just keep saying, yeah.
1, 2, 2 points. Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. And you know, and it's sad because you know, we have someone asked me, and not too long ago, well, what do you think, you know, would be the answer? Much like you did. Well, one of the things that we could do is that the state of Maryland is getting this huge sum of money from the big pharmacies, okay, and the lawsuit settlements. All right.
Right.
All right. It's going to trickle down to
The opioid
counties.
piece.
Right, right. I believe that we here in Washington County, every city that's going to get a piece of this, the non-municipalities, have to pour our money with Washington County. We have to increase the size of the Washington County Sheriff's Department to be able to have a treatment facility there where you get both the carrot and the stick. And let that money fund that, because that's what it's there for, to fix the problem. But if we don't do something like that, we're never going to fix the problem.
Bob, I have a lot more questions about this. Unfortunately, we're out of time for this show already. So, no, not at all. I'm going to ask you to come back and join us again. Thank you.
All right.
That was our producer saying, we're the same shirt. That's all the time we have for tonight. We hope you will like us on Facebook. We hope you will follow us on Twitter. We hope you'll send your comments and suggestions to feedback@flipsidetv.com. That's feedback@flipsidetv.com. Most importantly, come again next week and join us for another episode of The Flip Side. Good night.